Oh, I hope you survived that. Because you'll have to survive it in order to experience this wonderful session of Manic Miner from the ZX Spectrum, unless you're a ghost or something. Well, welcome. Mr. X is a tolerant man. I welcome ghosts as well as not ghosts to watch the Manic Miner here. I'm going to play some Manic Miner, which is an old game, old video game, from an old British computer system called the ZX Spectrum, from an era of video games where consoles wanted to have really stupid names for some reason, like this, the CPC and the Atari 2600. Goodness knows what on earth the 2600 stood for in the Atari 2600, but yeah, what did it stand for? It was probably something really like the number of... It was probably the processor speed of the thing or something. 2,600 bits per hour it could process. Something like that, I wouldn't be surprised. But this is not the Atari whatever, this is the ZX Spectrum. Is this recording? Good, I hope that recorded my little singing session that I had. I was singing along. Anyway, Manic Miner is an old game from 1983. According to this webpage that I've got it playing on, that conveniently, according to this webpage that I've got open, that conveniently, very kindly has this whole game to play completely for free on the internet, on a web browser. You can play this game on the webpage itself. I don't know if this is legal strictly. It's not. Maybe there's some shadiness here. I might get tracked down by the police and forced to pay tremendous fines for recording this and playing it on the internet. But I somehow doubt that anybody cares about the ZX Spectrum game. They don't seem to care about Super Nintendo emulator games or anything such as that either, if YouTube's anything to go by, so I think I might be in the clear, folks. But this is ZX Spectrum. I didn't grow up with ZX Spectrum or Manic Miner or any of this. I was too not alive to have done that at the time. I was dead. But I'm going to rectify that grievous flaw by playing Manic Miner here now, starring Miner Willie. I don't know why it says starring Miner Willie in the front, as if he's an interesting character or something. His name isn't even an alliteration on Miner. It doesn't start with an M, it's not Miner Malcolm. So this is not strictly the original version of the game, because it's missing the glorious music. And why am I talking? Just start playing the game. This is Manic Miner. Well, let me explain the controls before I continue that rant about the music there. This version does not have music and sound, but this is Manic Miner. We are this greyish sprite at the bottom of the screen, who's now moving up through the screen, he's getting up the ranks, and he's a 2D side-scrolling platform game where we have to collect all of those flashing objects in order to unlock the cage on the bottom right there to progress to the next level. All of that having to be done within the time limit that is represented by that air bar on the bottom of the screen just above all of the yellow text showing your score and stuff. Miner Willie can walk left and right and he can jump, and when he jumps you can't control how high he jumps. This is an old pre-Super Mario Brothers game, so when I press that space bar like so and let go of it immediately after he does that, and I can hold it down and do the same thing. If I'm walking to the left and jump, he jumps to the left or right, and I can't control how far to the left or right he jumps. He's just going to go as far as he does every time I press the jump button while moving left at the time. Now I better stop talking and get to the exit, but I thought it was dead there. Got to get to the exit before the air meter runs out. Come on, Miner Willie! Move to that exit! Come on, Miner Willie! Don't die! No! He didn't die. Let's get to the next room, the cold room. Ah yes, you see at the bottom of the screen there. Well, just above the air meter it tells you the name of the level you're in. Every level has a name in this game, which is very nice. I like stuff like that. That was a common thing, it seems, with these old British 1980s computer games like this, because Jet Set Willie did the same thing. And that modern game that's clearly inspired by these old atrocious graphics games, which you might have heard of, a modern game called VVVVVV. Well, there's 5 different pronunciations of that game's name, I think. Also names all of its rooms. And also has this weird ZX Spectrum art style where every sprite has a single colour. And it also has the trait that Manic Miner represents, and Jet Set Willy, of all the enemies just being random objects that a lot of the time don't make any sense or have any reason to exist. Like here we got these chickens, I think, in a place called the Menagerie, for some reason. The spiders, and they kill him. Miner Willy will die if he touches a spider. I assume, actually I've not even tried it, but I'm going to take a crazy wild guess. I'd imagine that it doesn't give you 10 extra lives or something nice, it kills you immediately. Because this is an old game, old games are hard. I don't think I've said it yet, but Manic Miner is insanely difficult. I've not finished it. I never touched it until about a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago was the first time I played this game. Oh yeah, he also dies if he falls too far, as you just saw. Manic Miner is a very old game and very difficult. And I'd never played it until a couple of years ago. And the reason I played it a couple of years ago is that I thought I'd do a funny series of videos where I played Manic Miner for the very first time and did kind of like a big massive long session of videos where I just showed myself playing this game over and over again until I finally completed it and didn't edit anything out. And that would have lasted for like 60 hours probably. I thought this would be funny, and it might have been funny, but for some reason I didn't record my voice at the same time as I played the game. I thought I'd do it in post-commentary, but I decided that would just be lame, because I would have to fake the reaction and the whole thing would just lose its meaning. So I gave up on that, and instead we're just going to play it here with me a couple of years after that with a little bit of experience. I did play this game a couple of times before this recording, just to wet my Manic Whistly Miner Willy. Give a wet willy to Willy Miner Willy. I'm blazing through these levels, or blazing's one word you could use for it. And I'm not really describing what's happening, but I'll probably get to do that the next time I end up going through these levels, because I'm sure I'm going to be playing these a million times, if indeed I am going to be playing this whole game for the internets. Which, we'll see how that goes. Going back to the start of the things I was saying, I like the green bricks at the bottom. Got to get in there before he does, because when he flashes like that after you've completed all the items, it means that Eugene up there will dive bomb for the exit and he'll never come out, and you're dead no matter what you do. Isn't that nice? No indication that's going to happen, of course. Anyway, I'm not going to comment on Pac-Man, because again, we will be back here after I inevitably game over. And anyway, the music and the sound in Miner Willy is of such a nature as that it's music and sound. This darn kitty version does not have the music or the sound effects for some reason, and you're not really missing much, because the music is it's not the most pleasant thing in the world. I just realised he was going to slam me if I didn't move. How far along do you go, Blue Pac-Man? That far. Processing fine. This game was hailed at the... This game was hailed at the time that it was released. Back to the start again. This game was hailed as... It was really highly regarded. According to something I read somewhere, this game was praised because it was the first ever ZX Spectrum game to be able to play music and sound at the same time. There's music playing during the game in the original version, and there's sound effects every time Willy jumps or falls. This is something that you don't get in the darnkitty.com version that I'm playing here, but I'm sure that I can show you off the other version at some point. As I'll show you them, son. I'll show you the other version, and you can hear the glorious music. You can hear just how worthwhile it was to program it to be able to play the delightful sound effect along simultaneously with the marvellous, mellifluous music that accompanies you throughout the game. It was certainly worth that was certainly worth that programming feat to do so. You know, I think another reason why I abandoned that, well, this wasn't the reason. I abandoned it just because of like everything I ever do. I just sort of stopped and didn't come back to it. I never give anything up, but I do frequently stop doing stuff for ages, but I never officially give up on it. The greatest of fantasy, I've never given up on that, not to this day. In fact, I've already done some work on the next episode of that, episode 8. It's coming out eventually. I'll finish that series anyway. This is not that. I think a good reason why I didn't stick with that 60-hour playthrough of Manic Minor, well, first of all, I would have run out of hard disk space, because it would have taken 2 terabytes worth of recording files, 2 terabytes worth of video files to record all of that the game being played. But secondly, it would have I think that even the likes of my wacky little brain would have run out of stuff to say after, again, 60 hours, however long it would take to master this game. I don't know how many of the little tykes that played this back in the mid-80s managed to finish Manic Minor, because it's very difficult. Right, we've got some air. I'm going to check on the recording setup. Really, what I mean is I'm checking the Cam Studio is, if you see over here, actually, let's bring Cam Studio in. It's recorded 19 megabytes worth of video so far. It seems to be random how much this thing eats up. Sometimes it will churn through the file size in no time, sometimes it just won't. On the same video, on the same thing that it's recording. I don't get that. But anyway, if that thing gets above about 1,500 megabytes, then the video will probably crash. Cam Studio will probably crash when it tries to save it, and the video just won't be saved at all. It's a really nice feature of Cam Studio. It's not quite as nice as the feature where if you click the minimize button, then Cam Studio crashes and deletes all of the non-default settings that you'd saved. That's certainly one of the best features I think I've ever seen in a recording program. And whoever thought that one up deserves to be recognised for it. Oh, Manic Minor tragically died. It's really... I wonder how many 5-year-olds finished this back then. Not that children can't play video games, because that seems to be a modern... a modern myth of our times, that children are bad at games, because they're not. It was the children that played these monstrously hard old NES games back in the old days, when they were insanely difficult, like Mega Man. All these nostalgic so-and-sos that still like those games today, they were playing them back then. They were better at them than me. I had Mega Man 3 and 4, and I never even knew that there was a final set of levels after you beat the first 8 bosses. I never managed to do that. So there you go. I'm pretty good at games nowadays, but not back then. Some people seem to say that they've gotten worse at games as they've gotten older. That their reflexes are worse than they were when they were younger. That's not happened to me. I only seem to have gotten better at them. I was personally pretty not so good when I was a child, but a lot of children weren't bad. Anyway, children can play hard games, but I wonder how many of them finished Manic Minor, because this is a devilishly brutal game. Because for all of these bonus points that you get when you get to the end of the level with your air meter, the more air you have at the end of the level, the more bonus points you get when you complete it. Which I think is the only way to tell a good score from a bad score in this game, because you've got to collect all of these keys that give you points to get to the end of the level. I pressed jump there and nothing happened. I'm sure that, unlike everybody on the internet that ever says that, I'm sure that I did something wrong to cause that to happen. I don't know what it was. Anyway, Manic Minor is devilishly brutal, because despite the presence of the point system, you don't get extra lives for collecting points. You don't get a bonus life after you get 10,000 points or anything like that. No, you've got 3 lives to complete the entire game, and there's nothing under the sauce. There's nothing under the pasty primrose pont sun that is going to help you get any more than that. Not a thing in this world, Margarine. There is not one dandelion on the prairie that will help you to... Oh, I thought it was going to fall. There is not one dandelion on the prairie that's going to help you get any more lives than 3. You've got 3 attempts to complete the entire game, and if you lose all 3, you've got to start over from the very beginning. Now, I know that there was... I know that back in the old 1980s ZX Spectrum era of video games in Britain, there was... I don't know if... Did anyone outside of Britain have stuff like this? Is Minor Willie here only known to British audiences? Did the rest of Europe get the ZX Spectrum? Because the ZX Spectrum was made by a company called Amstrad, I think. Wait, or is that just the Amstrad CPC that made that? Well, either way, there was a company called Amstrad that made some British video game consoles like this, and I believe the Amiga as well. And Amstrad, I think, stands for Alan Sugar Trading, I think. Alan Sugar Trading. And that name might possibly mean something to British viewers of this, because Alan Sugar is indeed the very same Alan Sugar that famously hosts the British version of the American television show The Apprentice. Or at least he did. I don't know if that show still exists. I'm assuming that Donald Trump has packed that in, now that he's the president. I'd like to believe the man has got some sense of... has got some sense. But maybe that is a stretch. I'd like to imagine that he considers his presidential duties to be a bit more important than hosting a reality TV show about a bunch of 20-year-old arrogant Berks that all continue to make the exact same mistakes year after that, come in with their business degrees, thinking they're the Beatles pants, and then proceed to make, much like on Big Brother, proceed to make the exact same mistakes that every other person that's ever gone on the show has made. You think if these people were so smart, they would have learned not to make an advertisement that doesn't tell you anything about what the product is that you're selling, or you'd think that they would learn that the amount at which you sell a product needs to be greater than the amount of money it costs to make it in the first place. But no, that they never learn these things year after year. The contestants make the same boneheaded business indecisions that even a person like me would know not to make. I don't really get that. Although, well, maybe they've learned by now. I've not seen that thing for about 10 years. I'm going to guess that they haven't learned, though. I'm going to guess that they're still making the same mistakes. Did that happen? Did those things happen in the American version? Because that's what always happens in the British one. Oh yeah, and also the other thing as well, of course, is lying about themselves in their CVs, which again gets picked up without fail every single year by these super spies that Alan Sugar seems to hire to screen people that are able to dig up what they wrote on the toilet wall in Primary 7 and that got scrubbed off 2 seconds later. I don't know how these people are able to fact check all these things, but anyway, they get screened by these guys, and it turns out that they were not actually the captain of the best person. They weren't the captain of the really clever people team. Huh? Oh, was that too far of a fall? I didn't realise. Sorry, Willie. Another fractured leg for you, I guess. But that's okay. He comes right back. Anyway, was clearly inspired by ZX Spectrum games, but I'm guessing that it was American. That must have been an American game, right? It's too good to have been British. It's too good to have been British and not made by Rareware. And you can't even say that anymore, because Rareware has been atrocious for about, well, ever since the Microsoft buyout, really, hasn't it? Or maybe that's a bit harsh. I'm going to upset the DK Vine by saying that. Obviously, they can't be that bad, but I believe that the people that made all of the classic Rareware games that are fondly remembered to this day, I think they all left Rare when the buyout happened. which explains the sudden shift in quality. They all left and formed a different company that maybe isn't so well known, and then they made some other games, like the Time Splitters series. Don't know how well it's known that they made that. That was well regarded back at the time. And then of course they made Ukulele, or Ukulele, I don't remember, which was supposed to be a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, and it seems to have been slated, that one. I've not played it, but it turns out maybe the fans didn't like it. That was a Kickstarter funded game, much like Mighty No. 9, which was a Mega Man successor, which people also don't seem to like. It's interesting. It seems like a lot. There's all these Kickstarters happening to revive these classic games that everyone loves, and then turns out that people don't like them. And they seem to, at least in the case of Mighty No. 9, they're saying that the game itself was just badly made and suffered problems. Which, I guess, fair enough, perhaps it is that. I do wonder if it's actually really a case of disillusionment here. We're finding out that maybe we don't really want what we thought we wanted after all. Maybe it turns out that we didn't actually want another Mega Man after all. Maybe he's dead for a reason. But I doubt that's true. Because I did get the 3DS, DSiWare, whatever it's called, Virtual Console, Mighty Gunvolt Burst. I liked that. That was nice. Oh wait, oh, brother, I barely beat Eugene into that cage. But I did manage to beat him. But can I beat the multicoloured Pac-Man brigade? Well, the chances are not in my favour necessarily, but not necessarily not in my favour either. Let's not be cynical Susans. Brother. Do we have what it takes? Yes, we got what it takes. Yes. Let's get on there. Right, I think we've got what it takes. Oh no, I jumped on the wall, obstructed my jump. I jumped underneath that wall, and I jumped too early. What is the times that now? 40 megabytes? Well, this isn't so bad. You get to hear more of me talking about all these things that aren't of consequence. Alan Sugar, back when I was watching The Apprentice, he was called Lord Sugar. Wait, no, Sir Alan Sugar, that was it. He'd been knighted already. I don't know how old he is, but he had a knighthood even then. Sir Alan. Always Sir Alan, never Sir Sugar, for some reason. Despite the fact that when he became a lord, which is something that happened recently, they've always called him Lord Sugar ever since that. Which just feels like it in keeping with Simon the Pieman. Yeah, he sounds like Simon the Pieman's... he sounds like Simon the Pieman's cohort. His sidekick. Lord Sugar. I feel it's hard to take him seriously calling him that. Not that I found it easy to take him seriously in the first place. What is this? Well, a tangent that I thought of to bring up in the middle of this is that alongside and other ZX Spectrum games that always gave the name of the room that you were in and had random weird things as the enemies. Another one that I felt was similar to this style of thing was the Addams Family SNES game, which had a similar feel, I felt. Every area had a name, and I feel like I had a similar sort of style to these. For some reason. I don't really know why exactly, because it's not really, but it sort of feels like the same mould to me. It feels like it's part of this family. And I do wonder where that was made. It's published by Ocean, who I know they were involved in some of these Amiga games, which were the Amiga was something that nobody outside of Europe cared about, I think. So they might well have been British too. So has anybody outside of Britain got any relationship with Manic Miner? That's my question. Did this thing get out of Britain? And if it did it get out of Europe? I've never known. I've never known what's the score with this stuff. Much like how I've never known what's the score with that world record down there. Look at that, at the bottom right. The world record. 59,009. Now, my score isn't terribly far off from that, so what that suggests to me is that that world record is that you can't just start the game over again and get a higher score. Because if you could do that, I think the high score would be much higher than that. But it might not be. Yeah, I read somewhere that Eugene here was based on a real person called Eugene, and I guess that the programmer of this hated him. I've seen the programmer of this in some video. I don't know what that thing is that Willie just landed in. This looks like a small shrub, a little bush, that kills him. Not the most durable person, Willie. Not the most resilient solo fellow. Oh, no, that's what I thought was going to happen at some point. Got slammed by that. Well, I think I'll make this the last session for this recording. Return to this at some point later to finish it, which I will do. Make sure to record myself completing this. I'm not going to just let this lie. Let's see if we can get past the Pac-Man. Well, I guess not. Okay, one more time. That was a slightly less ear-grating version of the actual tune that played on the title screen of the original version of this, which you're also spared, much like the in-game music and sound effects. You're spared that in this version for some reason. I thought I'd give you a little taster of what that sounds like with my voice saying the thing. Oh, I better jump to not let that penguin. There we go, penguin. Oh, you. Of course, that family, that Addams Family game that I was talking about was also part of a family of its own. Much as I consider that SNES one to be a part of the Manic Miner family, that was also part of a wider Addams family of video games that got made around about the time of the Addams Family movies that got made in I think the early 90s. And then nobody ever cared about the Addams Family ever since, I think. I don't think, have they done anything since then? They might have done, but I'm not aware that they did. It takes a thing like a movie getting made of an old thing. Or a revival in some way before anybody cares about the old thing again. Like these new Star Wars movies they're making, where suddenly everybody cares about Star Wars again. Well, I know that there's people that like Star Wars all the time, but it's only now that you hear them talking about the old ones. Actually, maybe Star Wars is a bad example, but when they revive some old series with a new series based on it, then suddenly they start marketing the old series as well to make some cold cash off of that in the cynical business fashion. Let's see if we can get this glowing cuboid, whatever it is, without getting slammed, Minor Willy. You've got like 1 pixel maybe to move left to jump over that shrub. The shrub that slams you. I think Eugene here was the boss of the programmer. Oh, that's right, the last time I was here, I was talking about the programmer of Manic Miner, and how he was on a video on YouTube of an interview where he looked extremely awkward. Well, he looked and sounded pretty weird. I've forgotten what his name was. Let's go this way. He looked and sounded like a classical programmer. Not like one of those modern programmers, because you know how I know that? Because he didn't have a ponytail. I believe programmers like to have ponytails for no adequately explained reason. It's some kind of, it's part of the culture, I guess, I don't know. Now let's see if we can get this. Oh my goodness, I misjudged that egregiously. But it's okay, we still survived. Let's get that. There we go. Oh, look up there. I gotta go to the top right again to get the goal. Okay. British computer programmers were the most devilish of all. British video games were insanely hard back in the old days. Even more so than all the other ones, which were also hard. Oh, and this is another thing I remember. Look at this. To get in there, it's not enough to jump up from here. I have to jump from this higher one. And even then, I think you've got to time it well. The VAT. Okay, I remember making it to here in my old playthrough of this. Back in the recordings I made years ago. Now, this is not as easy as it might at first appear. Let's see if I can do this. You got to get all of the things in this pit without getting slammed. Oh, what? Oh, fantastic! You can't even walk on top and you can't even do what I was just trying to do there. So that's out of the question. We've got to dodge these kangaroos and get all of those pieces of gold at the top top right. Manic Miner has come a long way. He's come at least, I think, 7 levels. I think you've got to fall down there and then jump to get that one in the top right in the vat. So let's try this. We've got to fall down on the left hand side of the vat, and then while leaving 1 block's worth of stuff above that yellow thing, do this and then jump up. And then is there anything else we've got to do? We've got to get that. Wait, I think I've already slammed this up, haven't I? I got to go down the left of that vat and then over to the right, and then quickly over to the left again to get that bottom left golden glowy thing. It's not easy. Alright, there. Now what? Now what do I do? Oh, well that's what I do. I get slammed. And that's the end of this. Cheerios and chos. Ba-ba-ba.
It's on it's on you.
I thought that I would try. It's been a week since the original Manic Miner playing that I did. And I'm returning now to show how well I can do this now. The experience I've gotten in the last week. I've gotten a bit better at this game. I'm able to get through these early levels. But I still haven't been able to finish it yet, but at least I've managed to get a bit further in. So I might as well show off where I've gotten to so far. I'm realising now that it's starting to hurt that this darn kitty remake version of Manic Miner does not have the extra lives when you get 10,000 points, I think. That's starting to become a dent in the Grand Master Plan, because I'm not getting all the lives that I would have normally had if this had been the game that was the original. But in life you've got to take the punches that you've rolled and roll with those. That's just how it goes. You've got to just accept what's happening and administer all of the fruitful Pez dispensers in full knowledge of that. I like that spike on the top right of this room. Well, I've learned that trick, by the way. You can just jump into that goal. It's faster than going down those rickety, crumbling platforms. It'll give you a good 10 points more of your time bonus at the end, which is meaningless in this game, in this version of the game, because again, there's no point extra lives. Although maybe not meaningless, because look at that world high score down there. I've discovered that if I was to register with the Darn Kitty website, I could submit my high score. And I've already managed to get high scores of this that are higher than some of the top 10, the bottom top 10 scores. So in theory, if I cared, I could do that, but I don't care. I never register for anything. I think. Very rarely. It's an extremely rare thing that I ever agree to do anything. I'm one of those sorts of people, when people say on YouTube videos to like, comment and subscribe, well, I'm your worst nightmare. Because I'm precisely the sort of person that doesn't do that. I don't like anything, I don't comment on anything, and I'd never subscribe to anything. In fact, I've never subscribed to things. The way I use YouTube now is the same way I've always used YouTube. And I think it's really, I'm just realising now, maybe this was normal back in the good old days, but now it's probably really unorthodox. It's really strange. I don't have subscriptions or anything. All I do is just search YouTube for stuff I want to see and just memorise channels or go through my internet browser history to look up pages channels I want to go back to again and watch again. That's how I use YouTube. That's not how anybody does it anymore, is it? Anybody that cares about this stuff now uses feeds and things. They get the latest videos put up by their favourite people delivered straight to their smartphone. Postman Pat himself personally delivers the videos to your phone. I assume. I don't know how this newfangled technology stuff works. I'm guessing it's something like that. The postman... Oh no! Thanks, Postman Pat. In my rambling about Postman Pat, I lost concentration. And again. Thief! Oh no, thief! Stuff. I'm not making you sit through this. I'm going to just fast forward to where I was. Be back then. Okay, alright, here we go. Back here again. What? Move there. The game wasn't accepting my buttons. But that's fine now. Okay. Now, to dodge the Pac-Mans. Well, the non-copyright infringing Pac-Mans. Of course, it's easy to forget now. It's easy to look at Pac-Man as an ancient character, but when this game was made, Pac-Man only came out like a couple of years ago. It's weird, isn't it? Pac-Man was a really relevant, cool, modern thing. Really strange to imagine, isn't it? It's like how one day we'll be looking at a modern game character. I can't actually think of any recently created new famous video game characters. There's not really many, are there? They don't come up with them anymore. They don't come up with many lasting, big, meaningful video game characters anymore. That's a dead concept. Unless I'm just talking nonsense as usual. There's the original character in Sonic Forces. Does that count? Anyway, I figured out a way to do the VAT here. Going all the way down at the bottom to get that bottom one, then jumping up once, jumping up twice, waiting for the kangaroo to be to the right of you, and jumping up a third time and to the right, and then down to get that, and then up to get this. And then waiting and bouncing enough times so that yellow kangaroo has come back and has just started to leave when I fall down, which I failed to do there. Fantastic. That's okay, we'll just do it again. That was my master strategy for this. I think that the room completely resets itself when you die. Well, it resets all of these trinkets and you got to get them again, but I think it also resets where the enemies were when you entered the room in the first place. I think it does that, at least. Strictly certain. I mean, Minor William, as far as I'm aware, has not appeared in any games in recent memory. Now I've got to jump carefully to avoid him there. Good. Now, this level's mean. As soon as you start this level, you've got to jump to the right immediately or that green thing will slam you. Fantastic. Isn't that nice? What a kind person. That's such English game design. That's such 1980s English game design. Oh, brother. I hope this last life is going to get me to the point that I've managed to make it so that I can show you how far I've gotten in this game so far. But knowing my luck, that won't happen. But anyway, we'll see. This is the This level is very clearly inspired by Donkey Kong. Bee! 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 That's the daftest noise. Donkey Kong makes that noise in DK64. Bee! 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 I don't know what they were thinking. What kind of noise is that? Anyway, now I could go to the exit, but I'm going to show you a special super secret treat, because there is a secret bonus you can do in this level. A bonus action you can perform if you manage to get this extremely specific and precise jump, which I managed to do. You flip that switch in the top left, then DK falls down. Whatever noise he makes, I've forgotten. And you get 2,500 extra points, I think, which again are utterly useless to me, but at least they're there. If this was the real version of the game, I would have gotten an extra life there, but it's not the real version of the game. It's a shoddy, pathetically put together pile of garbage version of the game. The programmer of this just done an atrocious job by not putting in the extra lives. That just invalidates this entire version of the game. It's not worth your time. I wonder how much did Manic Miner cost when this came out? How much did these old games cost back then? As laughable as it is to think, I think this might have actually cost £50 or so, or $70, because that's how much the likes of Super Mario Brothers cost. It seems to have been forgotten to time. People have forgotten how insanely pricey these games used to be. It looks not worth it at all now, but back then these were state-of-the-art, cutting-edge, exciting things. Video games were a brand new thing. Well, they weren't, not technically, but it was a big deal. People were really excited about this stuff. And that was the uranium workings, by the way. That level's not too bad, as long as you're careful with the timings, especially that conveyor belt in the top middle. You don't want to jump on that until the blue blobby amoeba-tron is heading on his way down, and there's nothing going to interfere with your jumping. Now, this is a mean level. Well, it's not really, but you got to jump like that to avoid the yellow thing flying on you. I've developed patterns for going through these levels, and this is my one for this one. The path I just followed. Then I got to follow this purple gummy bear and jump like that to avoid the grass thing and avoid him too. Then jump like this and get that, and now go over here and up there. You'd better believe this has all been learned by painful trial and error of death, and then having to start the whole game over again and try it again with maybe up to 3 attempts at the very most to do so. And then over here. Getting there. Now what level's next? Oh, it's this one. Let's hope I don't get slammed in this level. This is a nightmarish one. You got to avoid all of the telephones and those weird Monster Max on the Game Boy-like things. I should really be describing my strategy in articulate detail or something, but I'm a bit busy concentrating on actually doing it, because this is a game that requires tremendously careful timings and movements, and exactly what I did not achieve there. I'll be back next time I succeed, if indeed that ever happens. Okay, I have returned back at the start of the... Oh, brother, press spacebar instead of the P button, which pauses. I've got to move the mouse over to it and then press the... No. Okay, that worked. Whatever works. Right, past the pink telephones. According to the internet, the man that created this game really likes the telephone animation. The telephone sprite is the fan favourite. There's a video of an interview of him on YouTube simulating the telephone animation with his arms. So that's just how much he loved it. Now, let's move past this red Monster Max Teletron plasmic entity. And up here, yes, everything's going well for Minor Willie. Until he gets slammed. Yeah, okay, now wait here and then jump over there. And then quickly go over there and jump past this. Wait for him to come back and then jump over, and that, yes. And then down past him. I don't know how the Keys were able... Well, I do know how the Keys were able to figure this stuff out back in the old days, actually. When people say, man, how could children handle this? We seem to forget. When people ask how children could handle these difficult games, we seem to forget it was children that these really hard games of the 80s were made for. Like, they were precisely the ones that could handle it. Adults don't give children enough credit. Did you see that, by the way? That evil, yet again, another enemy that just is brutally difficult to deal with. Thrown right at the start of the level that's going to kill you before you've got a chance to react to it. What nice game design, what a nice thing. There's no way anybody was able to react to that thing the first time they played the level. There's not enough time. It's just cruel, it's just evil game design. What? Whoa, brother. Thought it was toast there. Thought it was toast! Okay. Now we got to... Now you actually have to avoid landing on that ledge, brother. Oh dear, I've already messed that up. You got to avoid landing on that ledge in order to carry on the conveyor belt all the way to the far right and get that little pickup that you have to get to finish the level to the right of the conveyor belt. In every single level of this game, you've got to get all the collectibles to finish it. You can't go to the exit without that. Okay, let's wait till this thing goes past, and then let's fall into this. There, let's do it right this time. Okay, let's do it wrong, fine. Either works. I've managed to get to the level after this, so I'm hoping that I can show that. But so far it's looking rather green. Looking as grim as it's looking as green as Barry Scott after performing his grime and lime sauce action, whatever one of the 60 different versions of Sillet Bang he's hawking in his latest advert. Gonna wait for that thing to come back again. Swoos! Okay, let's do this correctly. This can't fail to go right. Okay, it did fail to go right. Well, that's all you get for today, I'm afraid. Next time, maybe I'll come back with the game completed, hopefully, all going well. So, goodbye for today. Manic Meaner. Oh, stop the presses, Mr. X gave up. I didn't have what it takes to complete this game myself. I mean, I'm a dogged twerp, but I appreciate that you don't want to wait for years for me to finish this game. So let's just watch the commentary. Maybe one day I'll come back and play the thing myself, all the way through. Certainly was enjoying. I was enjoying the painful, monotonous process of mastering a game like this 30 years after it was made. No, more than 30 years after it was made, rather. Yeah, 34 years later. This thing came out in 1982 or so. So it's 36 years later then. Jeez. Jeez Louise. The music in this game, and calling it music is as charitable as the Oxfam Save the People That Need Charity appeal, because it's not exactly pleasant to the ears. But music is a well-known, popular old tune that you've certainly heard, called In the Hall of the Mountain King. Now then, here we have completed the Kong Alien Beast level, and I've got to the final level I've managed to reach myself in the game, which I tragically wasn't able to show you myself, because I wasn't recording myself the first time. But it's the ore refinery, where you have to walk. First of all, you have to get on that conveyor belt at the bottom of the screen, which forces you to walk to the left, and you can't control that, which means that if you just happen to time it wrong, and reach that big white flashing eye when it's down at the very bottom of the screen, you're going to get hit by it and you can't avoid it. So good. You just have to time that. You have to time it like 20 seconds before you even reach it, and trust that you're going to not be there when the eye's there. But I had trouble with this level because I died there after all. Those yellow and red and green and purple things too are always after you. The eyelash. You see what I was talking about these old British computer games with the enemies that are just random things? It's just a giant random fluttering eye. Fluttering eyelash's eye. And now we've got a bunch of random satellite things that have a surprisingly very well animated crash animation when they land on the platforms. That thing disintegrates disturbingly well, frankly. What is this? The Skylab landing bay. Well, I've never played this level myself, so I can't tell you what it looks like. I can't tell you how hard it is. I'm guessing it's as hard as everything else, of course. You've got to collect what look like just a blob with lines coming out of it. I don't know what that thing's supposed to be. I don't know what most things are supposed to be in this. Minor William is collecting them in any case. This one didn't look terribly hard, but I'm sure that it was. I'm still surprised at that disintegration animation, honestly. This is the first time we've seen enemies in this game that disappear and come back. They crash down and then come back from the ceiling at some point. But that one didn't look too bad, at least. Minor William gets up there, aka Minor Willie is what he's called in the game. Minor Bill would be another name for him. Because, I don't get the name Bill. They've already got a nickname for William in the form of Will, but apparently that's just not enough. They had to have another one where they made up the letter B that does not exist in the name William and shove it in there. I mean, I've never had anybody say Billiam, but Bill, yeah. I don't get that. Same with Dick and Richard. There's no K in Richard. And again, Rich was already existed, so what's the point? What are we collecting here? Money bags? Well, this can't be Streamhouse from Action 52, because if it was that, then the money bags would slam Minor William. Money bags kill him. That clown in that game. Bionic Commando ripoff from Action 52, but not here. That doesn't look like it's going to end pleasantly for you, Minor William. But no, he made it fine. He just drops down at the end. Dodge the spider. That level didn't look too bad either. The bank. I guess those were bank machines. The 16th cavern. We're on level 16 now, and whatever the person's name was that made this game is running out of names. Over the spikes. And what are those things? Well, they look like they're waving a checker flag on the tails, if the animals have tails. Like at the races, the go-kart Formula 1 kart driving go-kart machine things, whatever they are, car racing things, you know what I'm talking about, car races. The checkered flag at the end, if they even have that anymore. If they do have it, they probably don't have them being thrust around by women with bikinis. Maybe they do, I don't know. Maybe the world doesn't change. Well, they win those races and then they have a bottle of champagne that they just waste completely for some reason. That was another easy level. Holy smokes! I was thinking that abominable rainbow effect was going to go on the whole level, but no. Now what? The warehouse. Blue and red weird faces with leg things sidling along to the sides at the bottom. And it's just like that level that I was spending so much time learning the route for with the crumbling blocks, except this looks much harder. I like the shade of green though. The green makes me feel good and child, and it's good. So I like the green blocks. It reminds me of the NES. I've always had a strong attachment to colours. Especially ones like this. For some reason. Oh. William. What are those things at the top of the screen? What are these enemies? They look like they're actually... I think they're meant to be like windmills, sort of, rotated. I think they're meant to be rotating around themselves, facing the viewer. Come on, Minor William. Amoebatron's Revenge. Well, those things don't look like the Amoebatrons we saw earlier. Not those squid tentacle jellyfish monsters. Although these big... these sticks on minecarts were in that Amoebatron's level, but I wouldn't have thought they were the Amoebatrons, whatever they are. A stick pointing up. I mean, what did the mine have use of all these things for? What kind of mine is this? I noticed the lives counter for Minor William. The lives always show him walking forwards and then suddenly going back to his original cycle and repeating that. It's a funny way to show lives. Considering you really shouldn't have to be paying attention to the lives counter at any point during the gameplay. I don't know how wise of a decision it is to make it constantly animating. Oh, I thought Minor William was a goner. I thought the purple stick was going to stick him, but no, it didn't go that far. The player of this is clearly an expert. They've clearly, like anybody that's ever completed this game, they've clearly memorised the exact way to play every single level. They know the patterns of all the enemies down to a T. Collect that last key, and then gate to the exit. Reminds me a bit of Donkey Kong Jr. thinking about this now. Didn't you have to collect items in that and then get to the exit? Solar power generator. Ah, now I did watch this bit a little earlier on. I was really dazzled with what I was seeing here. I was impressed. Because look at that yellow light thing over on the right. Whenever one of these scorpion things touches it, it reflects off them in a shockingly realistic looking way. And then it reflects off of the other stuff it touches too. I'm impressed. I'm impressed by that. It's funny how they waited all the way up to level 19 or whatever that says to show that off. That's the most impressive graphical effect in the game. And there's barely anybody on the planet that ever even played this game that would ever see it, because who on earth got this far? How many people playing this game back in 1982 ever made it to this level? And I think there were cheats. I believe there were cheats to give yourself infinite lives. But even with that, it's a bit of a slog to get this far. Yeah. It's funny, really. In a modern game, also the yellow light doesn't kill you either. I wondered why it wasn't killing Minor William, but what it does is makes your air meter go down faster while it's on top of you. If this was a modern game, there's no way they would have saved a fantastic special effect like this until this far in. This would have been in level 1. It would have been all of the fancy graphical blow your pants off socks effects like this would have been chucked onto the player in the first level, in the first 2 minutes. And then the rest of the game would have been nothing but just corridors and brown walls. But they didn't believe in that stuff back in 1982. Finally, the final barrier at long final last. Does Minor William have what it takes to jump over that really, really tight-looking jump over that yellow flashing crucifix on a go-kart, whatever it is? There's also one of those fluttering eyelashes eyes over on the right as well. I really do wonder where these things came from in this mine. But if Minor William can just get those last keys on the right and jump up into the pink Omega sign, I think that's what that is. That's the that must be an Omega, because Omega means end, the final thing. And Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, they had a bunch of symbols like that were items, the crests. I think there was a Libra crest and a something else crest. And it took me a long time to discover that those symbols in that game were real world symbols. I think they were all letters of the Greek alphabet. Interesting. Now Minor William finishes the game! And what's the ending? Minor William standing there, stock still, above the level. And that's the end. The game seizures, and back to the start again. And that was it. That was Manic Miner. The ending was just the image of a nice little country house place with a lake that we saw on the title screen, and Minor Willie's standing on it, and that's it. That's the ending. Good. Well, maybe it's just as well I didn't bother playing that game a million times to get that to happen, but now you've seen Manic Miner, boys and girls. If any of you for some reason were interested in this ancient, dated piece of trash, then now you've seen it. It's not a side-scrolling platformer, but it is a side-moving. It's a 2D platformer from before Super Mario Bros. Came out. This is what we were stuck with before that. People are looking back at Super Mario Bros. These days and they're calling it out. They're saying, hey, Super Mario Bros. Everyone thinks it's the better these. It's not so great, really. It's full of flaws. That's what the kids are saying now. Everybody's taking a second look at that. Well, it'd probably be best to take a second look at Manic Miner as well, to remind ourselves of, well, Super Mario Bros. Might have had its flaws, but good grief, it certainly took us places that we would not have gone without going those places. Of course, if Super Mario Bros. Hadn't existed, I'd imagine some other game would have come along and done something similar at some point. Actually, I think Super Mario Bros. Wasn't the first ever side-scrolling platformer either. It wasn't the first 2D platform game where the screen moves along with you. I can't remember what the other one was, but I believe there was another one before it, but whatever. That was Manic Miner. There was a sequel called Jet Set Willy, where you got about 8 lives to start off with, which sounds more generous, but the same programmer made it, so you know what that just means, that the game is even more ridiculously long and impossible to complete, which it is. And I mean that quite literally, actually. It literally is impossible to complete on some versions. I think possibly even the original version of the game, there was a programming error that made it impossible to get past one of the screens. So, good job, person that made this. Although, you know what, that might have been an intentional bug, because the person that made Manic Miner was clearly so sadistic. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they deliberately made the game impossible. Ah. Oh yeah, there was a third game in the series that didn't get made, I believe. There was supposed to be a third game called Minor Willie Meets the Taxman, which sounds like a really British name for a game if I ever heard one. I'm sure that Margaret Thatcher would have been involved somehow. I don't doubt. I'm surprised Margaret Thatcher kept out of Manic Miner, honestly. Considering she was the butt of every joke and every single vaguely comical English thing in the 1980s. I can't believe she didn't show her face. And well, maybe she was Eugene. Maybe she was that egg thing with glasses in the level 5. It's not impossible. No, I think that was somebody else. The program. That was the boss, I think, of the programmer. I don't know. I wasn't alive when this game was made. I don't even know why I care about it. I've got some kind of weird nostalgia for these old ancient British computer games like this. From the British computers that they made. Even though I never played them. I think it's because when I was a small boy in primary school, they wheeled out some of these BBC micro computers with these games on them. There was a Postman Pat one. There was a Through the Dragon's Eye one. So I got an experience with a few of those. And I guess that it was just that just landed me with a... I guess it was just that just landed me with a nostalgia for these things in general. I don't know if nostalgia is the word, but I've got an interest in them.
Manic Miner! Yeah!
I think it's the Blue Danube that plays over the title screen. The wonderful music that plays on the title. And the programmer was so proud of that title screen music that they even put a musical keyboard on the title screen and had it visibly play all of the notes that the music was playing, just like in the Mario Teaches Typing, the finger glove things on the keyboard keys. They were really pleased with themselves. They programmed that music in and just sat back and listened to that and put their fists to their hips and nodded proudly, saying, "Yes, that is what I want in my game." I'd like to see them playing that version of the Blue Danube at the next time there's an orchestra plays that Blue Danube at the Royal Variety performance or something. I'd like to see them replace it with this interpretation instead. Okay, I think it's finally time to close things. For some reason I don't want to stop talking about Manic Miner. I don't know why, but yeah. So something about this game's quaint, ancient graphics, and its colour overlay problems, the black void in the background, and everything else just gets to me for some reason. Well, all things must end, eh? Time to move on. It's all about first-person shooters and Color Saga, Candy Crush Saga. It's the stereotype is that video games have been all about first-person shooters for the last 15 years or so, but you know, I wonder if that stereotype is old-fashioned now. I just don't keep up with the video game. I just don't keep up with the video game industry well these days. I don't know what's going on anymore. Are FPS is now considered a bit old-fashioned? What's the latest thing? What have they moved on to now? Or is it still just FPS is everywhere? First-person shooters and sports games. Or more accurately, the same sports game every single year, with a new update and a few more. The footballers switched about a bit to account for the current famous footballers. And maybe the maybe the pitch, whatever they call it, the football field gets a few more blades added to the grass texture. Manic Manor. Do you have the takes to be that? Well worded. Well said. Well said, Robin. Well said, Robin. Nobody beats sellers' prices on toys. Nobody. Nobody. No. Well said, Robin.
Yorkshire puds and sausage rolls, apple strudels, boshy bowls, canneelies and cannolis and boilies for my teas. Pastries of all shapes and forms, savoury and sweety, made out of the flesh and bone of criminals, yee-hee. Booty bonny cherry pie, croquembouche, fazzeros, fig-roll flaky pastries, flowers, flagroll, des noilera, empanada, eclair, Eccles cake, Dutch letter, Jevrek Danish pastry, Darbido's collie puff, Cuban pastry, cronut, crowline, croissant, croquetta of caltanisetta, cream horn, cuss and lion, conversation, Cornish pasty, cornetto, coca, cinnamon roll, chew a la creme, cooker, clorley, bacon, chin, chatty, paffy, chasan, carrack, burek, bunde, farabia, joyos, boncotot, correct, na kinder, biscotch, they brought York, bacon, nasty, hitron, betchan, cylinder, bello, cransky, scap of fiesca, bello, koi, bear, claw, blanket, bandit, sir, banbury cake, back pie, puff, cock, pie, flour, bagel, pudding, alu pie, apple pie, flowers, flies, graveyard, transport shin, granite, gato, basso, gloggle, caplanica, guccia, Goslim, Gunday, Gustavus, Adolf, Street, Gavlonvia, Pedro, Cluthed in the Thai Hillmansion, Eong Peng, hot water, crust, pastry, hoof, paste and pit, jacknut, gabby, cheese, with on this, glue, as if there's a fifth thing, one is on and click to kiss us on a chair, call on pet, corlax, of edges and his one, just a pint of contact. Waren exalted, running, okay, testing the Nazi, and the two cantons get to look at things to the little Kubik and content, that's a dance, possible dance. Looks like a slave out of a shot on a Patrol of Mago, his hands got the air, and was battle on the Papa Nazi game on a cake. Palace, that's a guy, classic cake. The point by the whole board, point on the piff of your poppy single hop with dog, that's a thing like that. Pencil, poof, pastry, got a geese throw, farm cake. Let me see. There's a blue brown about the issue. Skirk, put rock. Woodenberg's talk to stick close and cake. Sneeball, Slebia.